All right, one take, go. Let's go ahead and do this. What's up, everybody? It's Joshua Joshi Howard back at you once again with an update on what has happened in the upcoming index changes in the data slate that we're going to be getting here in September 20, or rather October 2024, a little bit later than a lot of people were expecting. Today, we're going to be going over all the points changes that we're going to be seeing in the Astra militarum and briefly touch on some of the broader changes that we're seeing in this most recent data slate. So to start off with, I do want to give a big shout out to StatCheck, of course, for providing this resource. It's a very great link. They compile everything that has changed in the most recent points update. I'll go ahead and have a link to it down in the description. But we have finally gotten the most recent points changes, and I think a lot of people have been waiting for this one for a long time with bated breath because I think a lot of people were looking at Pariah Nexus. It was pretty healthy overall, but there have been some rather big pain points for a lot of people. And one of the first ones that we're going to be looking at is the fact that Bullgryn were a problem for the meta in general. And now they have gone up. I think a lot of people were expecting them to go up 10 points per three models, but it has instead been 20 points per three models, meaning that if you were running 18 Bullgryn before, it is now 120 points more in your list, which definitely hurts me quite a bit. I've been running a lot of Bullgryn. If I said they were a problem, well, I was going to abuse it because it was very strong to have in the army. This is going to have one of the biggest knock-on effects towards Astra Militarum as a whole because we were one of the best armies in the game for holding back a lot of melee armies. We were really good into orcs. We were really good into custodies. We were really good into Deathwing Knights. We were really good into pretty much everything that relied on damage too. And now with Bullgryn going up to so many more points to being 220 for a brick of 6, I don't think we're going to be the premier anti-melee army in a lot of ways anymore. This really pushes us into a much less interesting position. I still an interesting position, but a much less obvious point of power across the entire board. However, this nerf does come at the cost, or does come at the fact that we are going to be getting some other buffs across the board. The first one is the field ordnance battery went from 110 points to 100 points, which, eh, like, this was a unit that was already not really worth bringing. The only time you really ever saw this brought was, I think it was Matthew Edgington, where he's bringing two of them in order to try and pick off chaff units off the rest of the board. However, we'll go ahead and talk about why that's not that important in the upcoming meta for the guard in a couple minutes. The other one, heavy weapon squad going from 60 points to 50 points. Again, this is a direct buff to mortars. Everything else is still not really playable in a tournament setting. It's kind of fun. You can definitely do it at your home games, but you should pretty much always be looking to bring mortars if you're looking to play competitive 40k. Again, like, it's okay. The problem is that these guys are both competing. I think those were, yeah, we'll get to the rest of them. These were the only things, or these were some units that were really heavily competing with Aquilons with the role that they're going to be providing. Well, field ordnance batteries with the bombasts and heavy weapon squads with mortars are really good for killing chaff. We can also just take Aquilons and full kill those units in one turn with an option to rebuy our Aquilons if we need to. And also, our Aquilons can go after lone op tools and they just have way more flexibility on the board in general. So as long as Aquilons are as cheap as they are at 90 points, which is not listed in this sheet, I don't really see a reason to be bringing these models for field numerous batteries or heavy weapon squads in the competitive side of 40k. The fact that they went down is nice, but this is mostly targeted at home games and casual, like, tabletop games. All right. Other changes. We got the Ogren squad to go down 5 points. I was already thinking about making an officer training school on this unit because it is just so cheap. It is so decent, like slightly good at everything, and we were already seeing some people like Nick Jagiello really start to push the strength of the Ogren squad already. Them going down another 5 points means that they are even more competing with things like Catachan to be things that we are going to be putting in Chimeras. If you were not already looking at Ogrens and Chimeras beforehand, you definitely should be now. Other changes. Scout Sentinels, they went down 5 points per model. I think this is really interesting because coming at a time when David Gaylord has already showed that there is a way to play a unit of three of them as this Alpha Strike piece, that got cheaper. I don't think they really change a whole lot because I can't imagine any breakpoints where going down 5 points and giving those extra 15 points really helps us across the board. But it is worth noting that you can fit them in. They are more directly competing with Catachan for their scout. However, I think I would still generally take Catachan if you're just bringing them for the scout purposes and move blocking purposes. However, if you are trying to bring that brick of 3, this is a nice buff to come along with it. The tank commander, I believe, is the only other change we got. Yep. The tank commander went from 205 to 225, which is a 20-point increase. This is a pretty hefty increase. However, it doesn't come all on its own. It is going to be coming with a change to the datasheet as well, which we will be talking about in just a moment. The next thing that I want to talk about is this great thing. It's just called the index cards. If you go to the Warhammer community downloads, it is not called index cards FAQ or anything, so it's a little bit hard to find, but it is all the changes that were made to the index cards. Any army that does not have a codex, you can find any changes to their rules or FAQs directly in here. And so there's a couple of interesting things in here that changed. Where was it? I know there are changes to like Dark Commune and Accursed Cultist, but we're not going to pay too much attention to that. Oh, okay, I'm going to go back. Reverse everything I said about going to that. Instead, I want to talk about some of the greater changes across the board. Sororitas actually got nerfed rather heavily. The biggest one, I think this is the single biggest points nerf I've seen in a while, I think almost close to a year, when all of our artillery got nerfed. Triumph of St. Catherine went up 60 points, and most of their other stuff went up 10. So Castigators up 10, Immolators up 10, Morven Vol up 10, Paragon Warsuits up 10. Overall, a lot of Bringers of Flame standard lists went up something like 200 points. Like, it was a crazy nerf to the army. Adeptus Custodes got a little cheaper. Admech, I honestly don't know this army well enough to comment on any of this. Eldar got a bunch of stuff that they don't really bring that often, like Corsairs, Falcons, Fire Prisms. I actually played against 3 Fire Prisms in my last event. They were annoying. Shining Spears, and let's see, Warlock, and then Wraith units. Like, a bunch of stuff went down a little bit. Black Templars actually taking a pretty hefty nerf as well, but interestingly, the Primaris Crusader squad is now worth different amounts of points depending on if you're playing just a 10-man or a 20-man. Blood Angels got their new points. We'll see how that shakes out. Chaos Demons and Chaos Knights both got some changes. One of the biggest, I think, potentially most impactful changes is the fact that the Wardog Brigand went down 5 points. This is already something that you're seeing allied into a lot of armies across the board, so expect to see a lot more of these in things like Death Guard or World Eaters, maybe even Thousand Suns in the near future. Chaos Space Marines got a little bit better. Dark Angels, they mostly got their Gladius thing changed, with Azrael and Deathwing Knights going up 10 and 15 respectively. Death Guard, some small changes. Death Watch, I mean, I don't know what this means, to be entirely honest. Oh yeah, they don't exist anymore, so that's their thing. Drukhari got some light nerfs. Genestealer Colts got some light buffs, but they're so across the board that it might end up meaning that they're a good army now. Grey Knights, Brotherhood, Terminator, Paladin. So basically all the things you weren't seeing taking nearly as much, getting some slight buffs. Agents, Subductor Squad, I don't even know what that is. Imperial Knights, Canis Rex got nerfed a little bit, but all their other big knights got buffed a little bit. So ultimately probably about net neutral. Votan, Hearthguard. Oh, Orcs, lots of buffs. Let's see. There was the other one. Yeah, Space Marine Eradicators went up. Thunderwolf Cavalry went up 20, which is kind of a lot. Tau got some light changes. A lot of Kroot stuff got a little bit better. Thousand Suns also got bonked. And then World Eaters, some small changes. So anyway, I think the biggest thing here, Thousand Suns, Drukhari, Sisters, and Wolf Jail were all fairly substantially nerfed. So I think we're going to see a lot of changes around the meta in general, because all of the top dogs got actually pretty significantly nerfed. Anyway, okay, let's go back to talking about the index FAQ. The Guard had a couple of small changes come out in the most recent one. A lot of things have been more directly changed. Orders cannot be issued to battle-shocked units. This was kind of already implied that if you gave an order to a battle-shocked unit, nothing happened because it was battle-shocked. So this just makes it more explicit. This is a really big one. The enhancements coming in for our detachment Grand Strategist used to say in your command phase, the bearer can issue one additional order in your command phase, but now it says in each battle round, which helps us out quite a bit. It now works on things when they deep strike or come in from reserve, which is nice, especially for Tempestus Command Squad Scions. Yeah, those things. Other changes, Gaunt's Ghost. Finally, we get Ron's Las Carbine to say sustained 1 instead of just sustained hits. It technically didn't have an effect for a long time, but pretty much everybody was playing it as sustained 1 anyway, so, yay, adding rules. Okay, the big one, Tank Commander keyword section, add Squadron. That is really big. So there's a couple major knockoff points that are going to be happening from this addition to the Tank Commander. It went up 20 points. However, it can do two things now. One, the Tank Commander can order itself. So it can now operate much more independently than it used to. If you had a Tank Commander before, you really needed Lord Solar in order to make it hit on 3s. Now it doesn't need that anymore. The other thing is now it gets access to lethal hits, which a lot of people were playing wrong. A lot of people thought all of our vehicles, but the Tank Commander didn't used to get this. Now it does. So the big change about this now is I actually think Tank Commanders are really good, especially in lists where you are not running Lord Solar. If you just want to bring efficient tanks on your own, the Tank Commander is now something to do, and it makes Scion builds way more exciting because you don't have Lord Solar, and Tank Commanders are once again something that you can bring. The other major thing about the Tank Commander now is it's a really scary reserve piece. Before, you would generally just start it on the board, but now a tank commander coming in from reserve can order itself, and it can hit on 3s in a way that a lot of our other tanks will not be able to. I even think there's a possible play where you reserve it alongside like a Lebanese battle tank, bring them both in from reserves, and just you're now shooting 8 multi-melta shots with lethal hits and +1 ballistic skill on the turn that they come in. One of them is going to be re-rolling hits from the normal Lehman Russ if the target is on objective. So it becomes a really good way to shoot major vehicles off of objectives just by bringing them in from reserve with the Grand Strategist. So interesting play that I think is now very viable. Okay, other things. They fixed a lot of things about the guard that were really non-intuitive, especially for newer players. So the first one, an officer target with inspired command stratagem still issuing an order if it's already issued the max number of orders. Yes. So this is really big because technically, rules as written, inspired command didn't work. Especially if you went first and you used up all of your orders on your turn, you had used up all of your orders for the battle round, and that meant that on your opponent's turn, inspired command technically wouldn't do anything. So this is a really nice fix. It removes one of those places where it just feels bad. So this and the Grand Strategist change really fix two of the really dumb terms and conditions parts of the army that we had before. Okay, if a tank commander is destroyed by anything other than the attack, can that model use its death befitting an officer ability? No. This is annoying. I really don't like this interpretation of the rule because this is what WTC was saying, was like it only counted if it died to an attack. So this means that things like Grenade and Doombolt and the Typhus thing and the Grey Knight Librarians coming in, these would all come in and deny the ability for the tank commander to use its shoot on death, which I thought was kind of dumb. It doesn't come up all that often, but it is now codified. Instead of just being a WTC FAQ, it is now official across the entire game. If a tank commander is destroyed as a result of its own weapon's hazardous ability, can you use death befitting an officer? Yes. This is also the WTC FAQ just being codified, which is, it is what it is. When a tank commander uses death befitting an officer ability, can it benefit from big guns never retire, only if it is your shooting phase? Yeah, this has been true for a little while. This has just been making it obvious. There's a Scout Sentinel's daring recon ability allows a shooting unit with an indirect fire to hit on a hit roll less than a 4. No. Again, this has been true for a while. It's just become official across the board. And then the last one, does the Khazarkan Warrior Elite ability stack with Ursula Creed's Lord Castellan ability to allow them to be affected by 3 different orders at once? No. This is also how most tournaments have been ruling it for a little while, so it doesn't change anything about Khazarkan for people who generally play in tournaments. However, it does change it for some people who are playing on their kitchen counter kitchen countertop. So ultimately, a lot of the questions that you see a lot pop up on Reddit, see a lot pop up from new players on Discords, have now been officially answered no, or like made clear to work in a very obvious way. So ultimately, some general stuff coming through across the board. The last like actual substantive changes that have come through are really found in the Pride Nexus Tournament Companion, at least ones that directly affect the guard. And this most important one is secret missions. In the 5th battle round, if you have a secret mission, you cannot score any VP from the primary mission card. If you have played in tournaments, you are maybe not used to seeing, but you definitely have seen games decided before in the past where someone will be like, okay, cool, I scored 0 primary for the entire game, and now on turn 5, I'm going to score linchpin for my home and 3 neutral objectives for 18 points, and then score a 20-point secret mission for a 38 primary turn 5, right? That was absolutely nuts. This removes that, which I think is an okay change because now you can only go up to turn 4. It makes it way less swingy and it forces your opponent to at least play the game a little bit earlier than they would beforehand, which is a good change overall, I think. I think it's a little bit inelegant in how it was actually done, but regardless, it makes secret missions way less powerful than they were before. The other major change, where did it go? Linchpin. Uh, now whoever goes second, or rather in general, so linchpin you could score up to 18 pretty reliably on turn 5, simply because you would control 3 in no man's land for 5 each, and you're home for an additional 3. That was a lot. Now it's capped at 15. I don't think this is particularly important. It's still a lot of points, and now just becomes taken hold at the very end. But most of the time, you were scoring 8 or 13 points on this anyway, unless you were already winning the game. So not super interesting. I don't remember when this was added, but it's now codified. So let's talk about knockoff effects and things that are not directly in the. Oh, the other thing, Aquilons now official everywhere. So very, very good. I'll have a video coming out about Aquilons in the next couple of weeks. So what does this mean for guard in general? Firstly, Bullgryn going up 40 points per 6 means that I think 18 Bullgryn lists are probably dead. It is simply way too many points. We are now looking to be sending 660 points. That is well over. Yeah, that's over a third. Is it? Hold on. You guys get to watch me do this live. 2,000 divided by 6. Oops, 2,000 divided by 3. Okay, it is almost exactly a third of our points being spent on Bullgryn, which is simply too much of our army. What this does is it indirectly means that Ogryn and Chimeras, Catachan and Chimeras are now way more interesting. The other major thing that has kind of changed about our army is the fact that Aquilons have been added. So now we just really need to hold the line a little bit, and we can shoot really effectively with our Chimeras, with our Hellhounds, with our Catachan, with our Scout and Armored Sentinels. Basically, all these other things that were kind of waiting in the wings, which were simply worse than Bullgryn in a lot of ways, are now much more direct competitors, are now very much things that we are going to be looking to bring. Also, with Aquilons, Scions are back on the menu. I'm really excited about the idea of running full Scion lists because of how powerful these units really can be, how much space they can provide, and how flexible they are on the board. However, you still need some board presence in order to open up places for your Scions and Aquilons to actually drop later on. Overall, tanks looking very good. The Rogel Doran did not get touched. All of our damage is still very good. The only major thing that we're going to be lacking is ways to solve problems in the fight phase. Rough Riders are still okay for this. However, with so many other things now competing for our reinforcements once per game with Scions and Aquilons, I'm not super excited about Rough Riders right now. Scout Sentinels also, like that unit of 3, like we said with the David Gaylord, also going to be competing for those reinforcement CP. There's just a lot that is going to be coming through, and I think we are a lot closer to the platonic ideal of what guard is looking like. People want to run guys and chimeras, tanks, and then Zions, right? I think that is very much what people have been wanting to run for a long time, and now we can finally do it. Overall, though, let me know what you guys think about this upcoming MFM, what changes you are looking to be making in your lists, and I mean, I think it's an interesting spot. I think we're going to be very strong overall, especially with all the top dogs nerfed. The biggest thing we're going to have to see is, are we going to be seeing a resurgence of orcs? Because, like we said, where did they go? There they are. Orcs getting a lot of buffs across the board. That's going to change things a lot. Also, CSM getting a lot of buffs to a lot of their units, which a lot of them aren't the really good units that we're seeing, but still, this is now two melee armies that are potentially getting a lot stronger right as we're losing access to Bullgryn. So, we'll see how it ends up shaking out long term. Anyway, this has been Josh with Joshi Howard. I'm going to be doing a list doctor tomorrow, so if you are a channel member and you're not part of the Discord, make sure you join the Discord and drop your list so that we can talk about what the general changes that we're going to be seeing are, how they affect your list, and what I'm liking and disliking going forward. So anyway, it's been Josh with Joshi Howard. We've been talking about the most recent MFM, and we'll see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.